What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of 4 Dummies, and tonight I am joined with the other 3 dummies, Mr. Robert Detoff.
Hello.
I have Mr. Just One.
Yo, what's happening?
And I have Mrs. Skullface.
Hello.
Before we get started tonight, I do want to remind you that the uncut version of this conversation, which is very funny and gives you a bit of an insight into Robert D's personal life in terms of how much of a complete lunatic he is available on Patreon at the $5 level. That also gives you access to Sit Down Saturday. That being said, we are going to move forward into this conversation. So we covered recently, if you Dummies fans are familiar and remember, we covered JISC and what do you do when you're quitting collecting and getting out. But the funny thing about that is that addictive behavior tends to be cyclical, and the question now surfaces, what do you do when you're getting back into collecting? And I think we should start with no one else but JISC.
Oh, I'm back, baby. What do you do when you're getting back in? Well, in my case, you think about everything that you sold, and then of those things that you sold, what you want back.
You're not the only one that has gone through this. I've gone through this myself 3 times that
you haven't.
That I can think of. I think what separates yours from ours, and I'm happy to talk about mine, is that yours happened at a time and a place where you kind of were able to see an end game to it. And I don't mean an end game to collecting, but an end game to a goal of how you wanted a collection to present itself. Whereas every time that I've gotten back into collecting, it's always been because a certain piece has struck me, and then it's like it creates a tidal wave that brings me back in.
And it spirals into all this other stuff that you got to get for it.
Correct. So you're getting back into collecting with an idea of, I am getting back into collecting because now I am aware that I have this space and I have this money. You know, not to say that you're like balling out of control, but to say that you're like, you are on your feet. You have this space, you have this money, and you want it to look and present a certain way. How does that change or dictate how you navigate within that field?
Wait, before you answer, can I also give a caveat there?
No.
Yes.
Did you get out of collecting because of money, because you got back into collecting because you had money?
No, well, neither of those are really correct. Definitely the first one, no, and the second one, not really so correct. So I got out of it. I think it's a lot of stuff going on for me that I just wasn't happy in a lot of areas in my life, and this was one thing that I could easily remedy to be like, man, this, I'm getting rid of it all. And then I didn't look back, and I had no intention of getting back in until, as a joke for people that don't know, anytime Robert sent a transformer to Bobby, regardless of the scale of it, if Bobby broke it, it was immediately sent to me. So at first, the first thing that I got were like these legends, and didn't even care, could care less about the legends. And then I think X-Transbot's Perceptor. But then I think for Christmas or my birthday or something, Robert legit sent me that Fans Toys Chomp. And so, which was cool, and still had no intention of getting back in. And then I still had my Fans Toys Omega Supreme that I just had on the shelf. Like I just never had taken it off. I still had that. And so just, every day it's in my office. So every day, and I wouldn't even really mess with it, but it was cool. And then, I don't know how it transitioned from there. I did pay off like all my debt and stuff like that. So I did have some more money, but I don't know. I just decided like, all right, I'm going to get back. I just felt like I needed to get back into it. I started thinking about, there were some cool pieces that I had that I wish I still had. I was like, these things are kind of cool. I wish I still had it. And so that kind of spiraled into me getting back in, but it's different now. I think now I'm a little bit more open to collecting other things.
Love to hear it,
but it's not going to be too wild. Like I got that Mega Man and it is dope, but it also feels weird to me to have it for some reason.
Like Bobby said, you need to expand your horizons.
You do.
Maybe so. Maybe. And I think that's a story for another time. But I think then to touch back on what I find more difficult is it was easier to curate my space by stumbling upon what worked and what didn't work. And now after having all this knowledge about what works, feel like, now I don't know what to do.
We look at these collection critiques, obviously.
Right.
Are you at all like, man, the amount of times I look at these spaces and I'm thinking to myself, he got the pieces and then try to get the furniture to fix the pieces, or vice versa. And now you had, a couple of weeks ago, you had the opportunity to kind of pick and choose a direction of buying the furniture first versus buying the pieces second, or vice versa. Did that affect how you got back into it at all?
No. I think I was lucky enough to be
happy
gifted.
To repeat the same mistakes.
No, not even that. But I was lucky enough to be gifted a ton of stuff. So it's like I kind of just naturally, by chance, have the problem where I have the pieces and don't have the furniture.
Dude bought 10 details last week.
But you know what I mean? So like, I don't have any of the furniture. Like the stuff that I do have on display is like the worst critiques. It's like the college kids room.
Dude,
Nona, a little
You know what I
Nona
mean?
action.
bro.
But do you think that's probably better? Like, is it better to maybe like amass some of these things and realize what you're going to have before you make those decisions? Or
I think so. I think knowing that, like, all right, I'm really going to have like mostly it'll be my Transformers will be 90% fans toys with like a few things here and there. And then it'll be, because it's going to be my office space where I also work. So it's now me looking at this room going, okay, what do I need? I need some display cases. I'm going to need some bookshelves. I'm going to need a couch. So it's like me thinking about the types of furniture that I need.
some bestas.
And then how it would look out how it would lay out in the room. And so, because now I'm in where I had the original office is different now. I'm in a smaller office space.
It is interesting because every time I've gotten back in, like the first time I got back in, it was just because the figures looked cool and I wanted to play with them. And the stuff that drug me back in was the Capcom versus Marvel Toy Biz like 2-packs.
Oh, right.
You know, and I started buying all these figures again, and I've said this 1,000 times, but maybe the first time on my channel, like I amassed a ton of them. I put them on my bed. I sat, you know, what do the kids call it? Pretzel style, crisscross applesauce.
Yeah, right.
And as I'm sitting there, my complete intention was to have a war with these X-Men figures. And I made it about 30 seconds in, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, whatever. It wasn't shame. I wasn't able to kind of achieve or grasp or touch that level of childhood anymore.
Right, like that element wasn't there anymore.
100%. Like I was probably at the time I was 19, 20 years old. The stuff that I was doing when I wasn't buying toys did not match that at all. You know, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at all these figures, and like the fact that like I wanted to create a story, but like I could only hold 2 at a time on my bed while the others just had to lay down flat. I couldn't get past the suspension of disbelief of it, and I was like, oh no, it's all silly. And then I put it all in a bin that night, and I put the bin in a closet, and I never touched it again. And that wasn't until years later when Laura and I moved out and I kind of had my own space where I was like, oh, well, now I could kind of start putting things on display in a meaningful way, but I didn't really understand the aesthetic value until more than 12 years later. So to get back to Laura's question, when did you sell everything? That was what, 2012?
It was 2020. Sometime towards the end of 2020.
You were in a position of privilege to have a very generous.
Here we
Yes,
go.
I have a benefactor.
But let's say there are still some pieces out there that you are in need of, right?
Yes.
So how are you navigating that space in the secondary market late tax era?
So I find that the late tax game is changed. It's not as pricey. It's still pricey, but like compared to what you used to pay for something late tax. So like I'm definitely buying stuff back. Like I bought a Fans Toys Lupus. I think I sold mine for $600. I think I bought one for like $250 or something.
Wow.
The late tax isn't a big deal on some stuff, but there's some stuff like I've been searching for like a Toy World Debbie, but like the one I saw for sale was like $900, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not paying that. Yeah, so I don't know. So I'm not in any hurry. That's my other thing too. I think not having the furniture. What I really have to combat, really honestly, is the frenzy of like, okay, I got to buy this, and just start buying like crazy. That's the hardest part for me, honestly, is controlling that.
The one thing that strikes me the brightest is when Jisk originally said, I think back on the figures I wish I still had.
Right. Yeah, totally.
That's the heart of it.
Yeah.
You know, that's gold right there.
Small things like the Ocular Max cassettes, like the Rumble and Frenzy and the Ravage were dope. Yeah, they're really good.
They're really good. But now that you had amassed a collection, you sold it, and you went through whatever trials and tribulations you went through, and now you're getting back in, as we all have done to some degree. Do you have any regret about selling it in the first place?
The only regret I have about it, honestly, is that what I'm really trying to do is not necessarily get back into collecting. It is a little bit, but I'm curious curating, I'm building my office space essentially. And so that's kind of what I miss. Is I miss that, like, I already had it done. That's what I miss the most, is that it was already done. And now I got to do it again.
You were on to something before it all went left.
Approach.
I think I figured out, again, for the space, you know what I mean? And that's what got us even to talking about doing collection critiques, is me trying to figure that out, as I would, I think.
Yeah.
Let's circle back. If you're coming back into collecting, ask yourself, what do you wish you never let go? Those are the only pieces you should reacquire. And then otherwise...
I do agree. I do agree.
So just to close it out, what advice would you give to someone that was thinking about getting back into it after they had already liquidated? What would be your blueprint to pass on?
No, I legit, like Robert hit it right on the head. It's like, get those things that you really miss having first. Just start there and then see how that feels from there. And then think about your space as you go. I think those two things are important, because if you don't have a place to display them, you're going to wind up losing interest. You're going to wind up selling them again. Like, you got to curate these things together. They have to have a home, for lack of a better word.
Zeta Unicron.
Tibia.
Robert's tibia.
Gigapower Slag.
yeah.
G Creations Prime.
South Jersey bumper stickers.
Takara Hound.